I'm an immigrant, but I've never thought of myself as a victim, ever. My mom just wouldn't have it. That narrative never became my narrative as a victim. Even in college, I was offered a scholarship for being Latin, and I turned it down because I felt it was wrong to receive money based on my ethnicity.
How is it that you do almost better in the moments of unknown than you do in the known?
When things are predictable and standardized, I'm a subpar leader. And maybe that's why I moved to the hardest place in the world probably to start a church. Maybe that's what drove me to the corner of Hollywood Boulevard. Is I wanted to go where it was so complicated and so uncertain and so chaotic that my gift of leadership is needed.
You were listening to the Mindshift podcast. My name is Erwin McManus, and I'm here with my dad, Erwin McManus. How you doing today?
I'm doing really, really good. And I just did a 24-hour turnaround from LA to Houston to Birmingham, Houston to LA. So my body's a little wrecked. My brain is alive and wired and ready to go.
I love it. Okay, so you were in Birmingham and you were hanging out with Chris Hodges?
Well, there's a whole group. There's a conference. It was a business event, and that dealt with like the leadership factor. It's from a group I used to be on the board at, called the World Leaders Conference. And so it's guys like Jimmy Blanchard, who created the black strip on the back of credit cards, and Dave Ramsey, who tells you to cut your credit cards.
So they're sitting at the same table.
Yeah, we're like all
Did
best
anybody
friends.
like call that out at all, or no?
Yes, it was pretty funny. Then Henry Cloud, who's probably one of the leading clinical psychiatrists in America, and wrote the book Boundaries. So it's like a great group of people. Patrick Lencioni, who wrote the 6 Working Geniuses.
Patrick was there.
Yeah, Patrick was there. Craig Rochelle was there.
Awesome.
Who's one of America's leading leadership guys. I mean, it was just an incredible group. And Chris Hodges, who has the largest church in the United States.
Wow.
And 60,000 people every week. I think over 100,000 for Easter.
But Life Church is bigger than that.
No.
No? I thought they were in the 100,000.
I think, they're both huge, right?
Okay, no. You just gave biggest, so I just was...
That's what I was told.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. I'm not saying that,
I don't know
as from my personal research.
Okay.
But it's immense.
Okay.
And in Birmingham, and they have like 23 campuses across Alabama.
Birmingham, Alabama.
I know, isn't that crazy?
Where the only professional team is the University of Alabama.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and it's odd. There isn't a single professional sports team in the entire state of Alabama.
No.
Not hockey, not basketball, not football, not baseball.
It's crazy.
Which explains why Alabama is
not
so
one
huge.
In Mississippi either.
No, I don't think so.
No.
But then there are no people in Mississippi, so.
Oh my goodness. That's insane. We love you if you're in Mississippi.
No, I'm just kidding. But for a while, Birmingham had a USFL football team.
Okay.
And I think it was
so hold on. So you learned something.
Yeah.
You learned a couple things.
So many things.
What was one of the highlights and takeaways from your conversations with the crew in Birmingham?
Well, one with Chris Hodges, I didn't know Chris, and what a strategic genius. And we both had a reference from probably 40 years ago. We both read the book called The E-Myth, and the difference is that he applied it at an incredibly brilliant level. And he said, "I'm not a great communicator." But
what is The E-Myth?
It's a book on the myth of what it means to be an entrepreneur.
Okay.
That being an entrepreneur is not simply about charisma. It's actually about systems.
Okay.
And a lot of times people think that being an entrepreneur is about having this catalytic, charismatic personality and gifting. And there's truth to that. But what actually makes an entrepreneur successful is the ability to create a system behind that momentum and that culture. And so Chris said, "I'm just really good at systems. I can look at anything and create a system." And thought, that's where his genius is. That's why they have this massive movement across an entire state. And then on top of that, talking to Patrick Lencioni and to Craig Rochelle, these guys are just such organizational geniuses. So I mean, I'm in a room just with so much brilliance. And then to be with Dave Ramsey. And it's funny because I haven't seen Dave in years, and he remembered the first time we actually ever met. We were at a dinner together, and he was saying, "It's you and John Maxwell, I think, and John Eldridge." And he was just so gracious. He goes, "McManus, you were doing crazy things back then. You were pioneering the way." And he said to everybody at the table, everything that the church does today are the things that Erwin McManus pioneered decades and decades ago. So it's very, very kind. I just wish I had his financial acumen, and he's a genius. But I do think it's funny that two of my friends are polar opposites in philosophy. Jimmy Blanchard creates the credit card, basically. And Dave Ramsey wants to destroy the credit card. And they're sitting next to each other enjoying great wine and being great friends.
Well, real quick, my first and earliest memory of John Maxwell is him lining up on stage in this arena in Atlanta, every book on business that he has, and he just starts going book by book. This is why you should buy this book. This is why you should buy this book. This is why you should buy. It was like QVC.
He's like the classic. So just real quick, he's so good.
In honor of John Maxwell, we have two books. The 7 Frequencies of Communication, written by yours truly, and Mind Shift, written by yours truly. These are two great, but I might be out of focus. Am I in focus now? Okay, so here are 2 books that you should pick up on Amazon right now. You can also link in the bio of this episode.
Speaking of that, I met this man,
brilliant
guy who started as a chiropractor, started a healthcare company that now is, I guess, a multi-billion-dollar enterprise.
Wow. And
he told me that they were using the 7 frequencies of communication.
Really?
And that was really, really cool. And I had quite a few people in the business world there come and say 7 frequencies. But what was also really cool is I had so many people come up and say, we listen to Mind Shift every week.
Oh, that's cool.
And then I'm flying into the Houston airport. I'm talking to Mariah on the phone, and all of a sudden one guy runs up and calls out my name, and he goes, I listen to Mind Shift. I read all the books. And then 2 other people came up and said, can we get selfies? And a 4th person came up and asked if we could get photographs. And they were all going in different directions, pretty much from Rio de Janeiro to New York. Mind Shift is having such an incredible impact on people's lives, connecting people together.
Awesome.
It was a little embarrassing because,
why?
Because when I travel, I pretty much look like a hobo.
Wait, what do you mean, like a big hoodie and a big pair of sweatpants?
I was just trashed out. I was tired, and they're all like, "Can we do selfies?" And I'm like, "I really don't.
No, please don't.
I really don't want this photograph going out to the culture, but you just do it." And so I just wanted to let you know, because I think sometimes you put in all this work, but you don't realize the kind of impact that you are also having on the world in through the conversations we have here in Mind Shift.
I appreciate it. That's awesome.
And some of them were old school, battle ready people.
Battle ready. Okay.
So
it's not that old. 5 years ago? I don't know.
But I did want to share one of the insights that Henry Cloud shared with me.
Please.
Because
wait, hold on real quick. Before you get into the deep and the intellectual, did anybody talk about the Pope, the new Pope?
No, this is Alabama.
Okay. The Pope doesn't exist.
Nobody's talking about the Pope.
So, Chris Hodges is the Pope of the South.
Yeah, except Patrick Antonio, he's a very, very devout Roman Catholic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he's very devout. He was telling me about this this convent here in Los Angeles. If I ever wanted to go there, he's friends with all the nuns, and he's a wonderfully beautiful human being. So I imagine he has. I should have asked him what his thoughts were on the Pope, but I did not ask him.
I'm curious. I mean, he's the first American Pope.
Yeah.
From Chicago. I guess he's a White Sox fan. I guess he plays tennis. And
is he really a White Sox fan?
Someone has to be, I guess.
I mean, well,
someone has to be.
I guess if you're the Pope, you should be for the underdog, the downtrodden, the outcast, the forgotten.
I guess so. But it'll be interesting because being a non-Catholic. Yeah. I don't know. I know. I'm so interested in the Catholic Church, and just because I love history and how much art.
What's weird to me is that the Pope has brothers. I don't
that
know
are doing
why.
Interviews.
It just feels weird to me because I guess I just think of the Pope as someone who's not supposed to have any relatives.
Yeah. Like raised in isolation.
Yeah. Everyone's supposed to be dead, like their parents. They're just supposed to have journeyed, somehow to the Vatican's version of Tibet and gone to a monastery. And it's just so weird to have his brother talking about him and how the neighbor said, your brother's going to become a pope one day.
There was some woman that's like, I dated the Pope in high school.
She was like, I hooked up with the Pope, but I don't know,
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But it is interesting having a more, I guess culturally relevant Pope, and that he's a bit younger, I guess, than the obviously
69, I think.
But I think wasn't that part of the concern was that he was younger? And so
I guess that is young for a pope.
For a pope,
you know,
yeah.
they might want to reconsider their.
we should do a whole episode, do some research on the Pope and talk through it. It'd be good.
I used to know so much about popes.
Yeah, I imagine.
I used to research a ton.
That's such a weird flex.
It's it's kind of weird, and some of it's because I was born Roman Catholic.
Okay.
And but I didn't know much about the belief systems, and I did go to mass.
Okay.
When I was young a few times, and I actually thought it was really poetically beautiful.
Okay.
So I was never turned off by it, ironically.
Okay.
The masses that I went to were always in Latin, and I remember even as a young man, young boy, I would take that annual missalette, and I realized that all the printing in red were the words of Jesus. And so we'd go to mass once a year. So I would sit there and read every page of that missalette. So
What's a missalette?
It's sorry.
Yeah, what is it?
It's like a little book that they put together where you do your daily readings as a Catholic.
A devotional.
Yeah, it's like a devotional.
That's very cool.
Yeah, so that I didn't know how you could access any teachings of Jesus. I had no idea that there were Bibles available in the world. Yeah. So I would devour that missalette, that little devotional, one time a year, and try to read the whole thing while I was in there. And so I realized that even when I was young, I had a deep spiritual hunger, and I was very attracted to Jesus. In terms of his story, his sacrifice. So I realized that long before I became a person of faith, I kind of was a person of faith. There was a deep faith inside of me that had almost like not been fully awakened, and so I didn't have negative feelings about the Catholic Church. People, have had horrible experiences, and some people have left the faith because of it, and some people just had, kind of neutral experiences where they didn't have anything deeply spiritual happen. I had the opposite experience, and maybe it's because I was so open to the possibility of God.
Okay, so talk to me about what Henry Cloud said.
Well, it was interesting because we did a lunch and we did a Q&A, and one of the men who asked the question was running for Congress, I think it was, and he began asking us, as a future politician, what are some of the insights you guys would give me? What does the country need? What do people need? And Henry had this incredibly, I think, concise summary of the cultural conversation we're in, of the challenge we're in. He said, a part of the problem is that the cultural narrative is based on a triangle. You're either a victim, a persecutor, or a rescuer. And when I heard that, we've had conversations like this, but we mostly have kind of focused on the victim and the persecutor. But the rescuer is really interesting. And he said, part of the challenge is that the way that you have to frame your positions is that you have to decide who the victim is, who the persecutor is, so that you can be the rescuer. Because in a sense, you're not deciding who the rescuer is. You're trying to be the rescuer, in some sense. But I thought this is so true, because if it could just apply to any situation without, I'm going to do it both ways. So let's say the border. So one side would say the victims are the immigrants trying to come in. The persecutors are ICE and anyone trying to stop them. And the rescuers are the Democrats who are trying to help them stay in the country or come into the country. Change the triangle. The victims are the citizens who have been attacked by illegal immigrants. Crime, murder, whatever it may be, Venezuelan gangs. So the persecutor are the immigrants coming across, and then the rescuers are the Republicans closing the border. So you have the same issue, but the triangle shifts.
Okay.
And so now, if you think about it just in terms of like the whole Me Too movement, right? You have the victims, and would be the person who made the accusation. The persecutor is the person who committed the offense, and then the rescuer are all the people who support the Me Too movement. And so then if you flip it around and you take the same triangle, the victim is the person who's been falsely accused. The persecutor is the person who's accusing them falsely, and the rescuer is the person who's trying to protect that person's reputation. And so it's interesting. And he wasn't saying we need to change the triangle. What Henry was saying is that this is a toxic triangle. If you see everyone through victim, persecutor, and rescuer, even when you're the rescuer, it's a toxic triangle. Because what you're trying to convince people of is, I'm who you need to solve your problems. And he said, what we need someone to do is to rise above this triangle. And that's interesting because, one, I'm an immigrant, but I've never thought of myself as a victim, ever. Like it just, my mom just wouldn't have it, and so that narrative never became my narrative as a victim. Even in college, I was offered a scholarship for being Latin, and I turned it down because I felt it was wrong to receive money based on my ethnicity, because I felt like it would force me to take a victim's perspective. I don't know why I did that, but that was like my view back then. I wasn't a Christian. I wasn't a follower of Jesus in any way.
No, it was your view when I applied for college.
Yeah.
You told me not to put down, what is it, like applying for financial aid because of like gender.
Yeah.
Because I'm,
we're Latino or ethnic.
Yeah.
Ethnicity. Yeah.
Or even class system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was, but also I never saw myself as a persecutor. And so when people would try to add, like, let's say white guilt, I would just say, hey, I'm not white, I'm Latino, or, the reparations of, what has happened in Americans past. I'm an immigrant. How am I brought into the persecutor story? So and I'm 25% Native American. So I could have easily taken on a victim's narrative. And people tried then later to give me a persecutor's narrative, but it's so much easier.
For what? Why?
Oh, because I don't speak English with an accent, so I'm obviously a white man.
Right. So whenever they were upset with you, it was always the white man is doing this versus
and then the rescuer then changes over time, right?
Yeah.
And I do think that there have been times I have taken on the rescuer identity. Of going, my job is to rescue everyone. My job is to help the victim. My job is to stop the persecutor. And every year I have to decide who's the victim, who's the persecutor. And so I could even see that, even though I don't think I ever took on victim or persecutor, that I did take on rescuer. Yeah. And then and then you better be right about who you're rescuing. Yeah. Because you're defining who the victim and who the persecutor is. Yeah. And by the way, that's a huge part of politics, is that politicians create victim, persecutor, so that you can see them as the rescuer. So I guess, and I don't have an answer to this because this was yesterday, right?
Yeah. I love this conversation though, because so do you agree? Do you agree? Not that do you agree with it, because I think it's pretty laid out there. I think
it's pretty self-evident, right?
It's pretty obvious that exists within side of culture.
Yeah.
What are if you were to build a triangle, how would you build it?
Well, that's what I was going to say. I don't know yet. See,
right?
Henry didn't give us an answer.
No, he's a psychologist.
He showed us the problem.
Yeah, and Henry works with like thousands of psychologists, right? Like, or hundreds.
Psychologists, yeah. I mean,
he's kind of in this on day to day.
Yeah, he's an expert.
Looking at data, looking at different research, looking at different studies. So I find him really interesting. He also has like bestseller books, right?
Oh,
he's a legend.
Tens of millions of books. Yeah.
Look him up on YouTube if you haven't heard.
Probably
of
his most famous book is called Boundaries.
Okay. Yeah. But he helped me find a therapist back when I was living in Orange County. Yeah. He's an amazing person.
But he was saying we need to find a new narrative.
Okay. So if we were to find a new narrative, did he have any solutions? Did you guys come up with any solutions?
No, he's really good at
just leaving the prompt,
throwing it out there.
In a true psychological manner. He just went,
now it's on you.
Yeah. Now it's on you. Fill in the blank.
But and it's easy to say for others, so I'm just going to say this for myself. It's like, if I choose to never allow myself to be the victim, I just won't accept that as an identity.
Right.
And ethically, I choose to never be the persecutor. And that, I live my life to serve others and to make sure that it's always win-win. I don't want to be, and this is one thing I've had to really learn is I'm a lose-win person in terms of psychologically. I'll lose so other people can win. But if I do that, I'm inherently making myself the victim. And so healthy relationships are win-win, and not win-lose and not lose-win. And then also
the healthiest relationship.
Relationship,
because all relationships have lose-win.
Yeah.
There are always times, like you talked about it in a message a couple weeks ago, where you made a joke about like Pride and Prejudice is re-releasing, so finally now I can take my wife to a movie that she actually wants to see.
Yeah.
not one of the movies that I want to see, that I know that she doesn't want to see. Like that's a lose-win. That's a casual lose-win relationship, or not relationship, but moment in a relationship.
Yeah, except that it's win-win because I actually really love the movie.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah.
You know,
no, it's not that. No,
but it's also can be win-win because what I gain out of it is her happiness, which adds to my happiness.
Spending quality time with someone.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You have to have a win in it, don't you know?
Yeah. You have to find those wins. Yeah.
But I think the third thing is, don't take on this false heroic narrative that you're the rescuer. Because if you're the rescuer, you're actually taking on an elitist mindset that you need me because you're not powerful enough. You're not strong enough. You're not capable enough.
Do you think, because we're in this, because we've dabbled in this like high performance coaching space, and we talk about this a lot. I think a lot of these guys are great humans, but the frequency they use feels inauthentic. And so I'll make the light joke of sometimes like some of these guys are scammers. Yeah. And I think they do actually bring something to people that buy into their products. But a lot of these guys, it's not revolutionary. It's like breadcrumb. They breadcrumb. Here's the trail to success, but success is really elusive, and how do you even really get there, right? But if you do this course and you do this thing and you do whatever, and you've never been that, even with like the arena, it's like, you can listen to all my master classes, but if you don't speak and communicate on a daily basis, which everyone for the most part does, you're never going to grow in your communication basis. It's a lifestyle. It's a way of life. But you're also like that in spirituality. You're like, you can do the 3 things that give your life to Jesus, get baptized, be a part of community, give, be a holistic Christian, and still be so far from God. Yeah. And so like, how do you reconcile some of these core concepts, or even just how you teach in the way that because I think a lot of these guys, like they come from the perspective of, I'm the rescuer. Here's my plan. Here, let me show you how I built all of this. Yeah.
In a very real sense, politics and sales are profoundly built on, I'm your rescuer. Okay. A lot of the masterminds are built on, I'm going to rescue you. I'm going to teach you how to sell real estate.
But I think a lot of
how to do door to door. I'm going to help you make $1 million.
Teach you how to MLM, multi-level marketing, or sell a course. It's coaches coaching other coaches. Yeah. But churches are like that. Yes. Churches are like that. Politics are like that. Gyms are like that.
And maybe it's because all of us, at different times in our life, feel like we need to be saved. Oh, right. Wow, it's interesting. I just used a very, very Christian phrase. I didn't mean it that way.
No, but there is, right? Like,
we need a rescuer. Yeah. Right? But I think about this line because I think it's actually an illusion. I remember one time I saw this guy post on Instagram, and somehow I knew it was a toxic response. But he was quoting a business statement that says, "No one is coming for you." That's become a very famous phrase in the business entrepreneurial space. No one is coming for you. So he posted that on his story. No one is coming for you. And because I knew what was going on in that person's life, I knew it was actually not a statement of a rescuer. It was a statement of a victim. And that a lot of times when we say no one's coming for you, we're actually angry victims that no one came for us. Okay. But because the truth is, no one succeeds without other people coming for you. Okay. The idea that no one is coming for you, that no one's going to help you, that you got to do this on your own, that if you're going to make it, you got to make it, by yourself. That is so toxic and narcissistic. And, years ago, somebody asked me, what I thought were the keys to my success. And I said, I've seen other people who are more talented than me, more intelligent than me, more gifted than me, better positioned than me, not succeed because they didn't invest in people. And I've really loved people and really care about people. And I believe that a huge part of why I keep succeeding is those people won't let me fail. When I mess up or I fail or I just, start collapsing, they don't run from me, they run to me. And I just think that real success is a communal experience, that no one succeeds alone. We have Steve Jobs on the cover of his book and Elon Musk on the cover of his book and Jeff Bezos on the cover of his book, but not a single one of them succeeded at anything by themselves.
And I think all of those guys would
say that.
Yes,
and that's why they succeed, is they understand that it's not no one is coming for me.
Yeah, Bezos has that great quote that when he gets attacked for the money he's made, talk about, he's at the $100 billion that he's made, and he goes, if Amazon's worth $1 trillion and I've made $100 billion, I've made $900 billion for other people. Yeah. The majority of my wealth I've made for other people, or the majority of my value for my company I've made for other people.
Yeah.
And okay, so how do we, because I think we all need saving.
Yeah.
Right. And so how do we, I subscribe to the no one's coming for you, but being like, you have to wake up and stay motivated. And I think, last year there was like so many, it feels like every time we turn around, something bad's happening.
Yeah.
For the last year and a half. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. Because I go, there's people who are going through much harder things. Mm-hmm. We're just also connected to those people as well. And so we feel those moments and we hang on to those things and we help together. We help as a community drive through those hard moments. And you said something to me last week. I asked, hey, are you worried? And he said, no, I'm excited. And I said, that's good. And I think you thought I was making fun of you in text. And I said, no, I need your hope. Mm-hmm. Because you have such like an optimistic view of the future. Yeah. And then sometimes I can be panicky and go, what's that lifeguard rule of thumb of like, you can't save the person until you're saving yourself, or like put the mask on yourself before you put the mask on the next person on the plane. But like sometimes I just need you to put the mask on you so that I can see, okay, he's putting the mask on, I'm putting the mask on. Yeah. There's hope. We have a future.
Yeah. The reason I bring up that phrase, no one is coming for you, is it's actually a derivative of a quote from me.
Okay. What's the quote?
And I didn't know that quote was going to be so viral.
Save nothing for the next life?
No. I actually said, no one else is coming for you.
Which book? Way of the Warrior?
No, it's from speeches I did years and years ago.
Okay.
Where I talked about...
I thought it
may be in a book, I don't know. But I was asked about Jesus and saying he's the only way, the only truth, the only life. And they said, isn't that exclusive? Isn't that arrogant to say you're the only one, you're the only way? And I said, no, what Jesus is saying is no one else is coming for you. It's not, I want you to choose me of all the people who are coming for you. What Jesus was saying is no one else is coming for you. But then the else got taken out of there. From no one else is coming for you to no one is coming for you. And what I think is really important is to realize that someone did come for you. And in the moment you deny that, you really are alone.
That's something so beautiful there. Mm-hmm. Something so interesting. Because one of the lines in one of your messages a while back, I think it was pre-COVID, you've talked about this. You said this a lot over, I think, your tenure of speaking. It was like, be the miracle in other people's lives.
Yeah.
Like, why are you waiting for the miracle when you can be that miracle for someone else? And I think you said this 10 years ago or so first, when I first heard you say it. And now there's so much data that talks about, the importance of being generous and not being self-focused, that when we're most anxious and depressed, we're the most self-focused. And that is the toxic cyclical loop or psychological loop that our minds can fall into when we become too self-focused in our own problems and go, the best thing I can actually do is be at service of others and to help me break these cycles and loops. And we talk about this, like, okay, you do have to focus on yourself, be healthy, sleep well, go outside, breathe air, eat food, drink water, and then
deep, meaningful relationships.
But then because you have to take care of the internal, but then you also have to engage with the external.
Yeah.
Or we just become, you know, it's that tree in the forest of if it falls down and no one's there, did it make a sound? Like in isolation, we become nothing.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think for some people it sounds like you need to enjoy life and then you also need to work hard. And I'm like, I actually think working hard is incredibly enjoyable. And so I'm not like, I don't have two different buckets, my enjoy life bucket and my work hard bucket. When I'm not working hard, I'm actually not enjoying life as much. And
Okay.
And
no, I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
you find meaning and purpose.
Yeah, I just
in the doing,
in the creating, like
yes.
You know. And I don't know if Picasso was enjoying his life less when he was painting. I think he was enjoying life more when he was painting. In fact, from looking at some of his life, I wonder if he enjoyed life at all when he wasn't painting. You know, I think that painting actually gave him his greatest sense of joy. I think that, you know, I do believe like that Liszt and Mozart and Beethoven, that they probably enjoyed life at its ultimate experience when they were composing. And so I don't think that there's supposed to be this massive dichotomy between when you're working hard and when you're enjoying life. And maybe it's an ideal, but when I'm creating something really beautiful, I'm actually having so much fun, you know. And then I'm also learning how to enjoy life when I'm not working. I think I replace work with competition, which is why when we're on vacation, I love playing padel. I love, you know, just finding sports or finding competition, because I just, you know, I'm an active person and I enjoy life in that. I don't enjoy life just in the sitting. Although I can just sit at a pool and enjoy life in those moments.
Not too much.
Not for too long.
I have to take vacations away from your vacations, because your vacations are amazing, but there's a lot happening. You have a very strict schedule. You know, wake up, work out, protein shake breakfast, paddle tennis, beach for 1 hour, lunch, paddle tennis, gym again. Hit that pool for 30 minutes, go back, shower, dinner.
I'm trying to optimize the vacation experience.
You do.
You're welcome.
You every hour of, we don't rest. We don't rest. No, but okay. So we're in a unique season of chaotic nature. And, you know, one of the unique things in these moments, you know, since the fires in January, we've really we haven't really launched anything new with the business. We do our weekly calls in the arena. We have our B1 days with Brendan Bouchard and you and the team, which has been really fun and excellent. And a really great treat, because Brendan Bouchard and you are some of the greatest speakers. And then to do these content events here in LA have been really special. But, you know, we've been in a unique season of helping Mosaic and making sure Mosaic's strong, because we care about it. So really pulling the team together, but also transitioning Mosaic from the main campus in Hollywood, which has been our flagship for 15 or 14 years, to really seeing what that next chapter looks like. So much so we've called it the next chapter. With that, there's a lot of stress and a lot of chaotic nature and a lot of unease, because you just don't know. There's so much unknown. How is it that you do almost better in the moments of unknown than you do in the known? That is it, you know, because we laugh because we just did this coaching assessment that has no name. It's like a private one, and with Wayne, and it talked about our orderliness scores.
My orderliness score is pretty dismal.
I like order and systems, and you hate order, or you don't hate it, you don't need it. Yeah. Or how does that graph work?
Yeah,
is it a need?
I love order for others.
No, you don't, because you've tried to free them. You've tried to free their minds.
It's true. When I see people overstructured, I feel like my job is to liberate them, to set them free.
To free them.
It's a very compulsive and dysfunctional approach toward the world. Yeah, when I saw my quote orderliness score,
Yeah.
I can't even say that word. It shouldn't even exist. And I saw how low it was, and it was, there are different colors on this grid.
Yeah.
And there's like, I guess, yellow and blue and and then the mid-level, then orange, and then red. And I'm in the black zone. I'm in the outer limits. And I just really function best in a highly adaptive, highly flexible, highly uncertain world. But I also am acutely aware that most people can't function at their best in that space. And if so, I'm not rebellious against it.
Okay.
I'm just not very good at creating it. And some people think, "Oh, you're against it," and I go, "No, I'm not against it. It just doesn't ooze out of my essence." And I'm for it. And if there's someone who can do that, I think it's a really great thing.
Okay.
But and maybe that's why one of the core values of Mosaic is structure must submit to spirit. Is that I saw structures as incredibly limiting, but systems are incredibly empowering, and so maybe it's figuring out the difference between structures and systems. And because our bodies are a unique system, and they do have structure, but our skeletal system is on the inside, and it shouldn't be seen. And I think a lot of organizations, it's almost like the bones are on the outside, and there's no meat on them. And so just looking at that. But the question is, how do I do well in these environments? And I think it's not that I like chaos; it's that I understand it. And where other people, it seems like, go blind, I actually gain sight. And I've noticed this historically, that there's a spectrum of leadership that does really well when there's predictability. And then there's a very, very small number of people who do well when there's high complexity. So the reason I do really well in uncertainty is that it means we're in high complexity. And I'm really good when things are really complicated and uncertain and chaotic. When things are predictable and standardized and knowable, I'm a subpar leader. And other people are exceptional and extraordinary. But it's interesting. I think 30 years ago, I did this assessment with Leighton Ford, who's Billy Graham's brother-in-law, and they measure something called tough poise. And of the world leaders that they brought together, I was the only one who scored extremely high on this. Never heard of it. And I said, well, what's tough poise? And they said, if there's no crisis, you don't look like a leader. You just don't have any need to lead. You're sort of, you're happy to follow and let other people do their thing. He goes, but when there's a crisis, you just jettison up and you become the clear leader. Because when everyone else is chaotic and falling apart and uncertain and afraid, you just are so calm that you take the ship over. And maybe that's why I moved to LA. Maybe that's why I moved to the hardest place in the world probably to start a church. Maybe that's what drove me to the corner of Hollywood Boulevard. I wanted to go where it was so complicated and so uncertain and so chaotic and so difficult that my gift of leadership actually is needed. I just don't know if my gift of leadership is needed in like Birmingham. See, I think like Chris Hodges is a genius with systems, but Birmingham is a more like constant space. It doesn't change as rapidly as Los Angeles. And I don't know. I don't think I could have been successful like he was successful there, and because of the way that our leadership gifts are designed.
Well, that's why I think it's great that you guys are friends.
Oh, I like them so much.
That's the beauty of friendship, is that we like can glean and kind of exist together and learn from each other. And I think that, I don't know much about Chris Hodges. I just know that Church of the Highlands is huge.
Yeah.
And they had something like they were like 60,000 people and had like, I want to say like 50,000 groups. Like their big thing was groups and getting people into groups.
And I'm probably not as impressed by success as I am by genius. I'm just going to be really honest about my preference. He is a genius. That guy is brilliant.
Well, tell me a non-genius that can do that.
Yeah, that's the thing.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Or can non-geniuses be so systematic that they can build that?
Yes, you can be a non-genius and replicate his system. That's his genius. It's just like,
but you can't achieve that
You
without
couldn't do it
some
from-
level of genius.
yeah,
You could replicate it.
Yeah, well, I would say, intelligence.
Okay.
If you have to be intelligent to replicate it, but I think you have to be a genius to have created it the way he did. Like there's a level of brilliance in him that's just at a different level.
Right.
But I think very intelligent people can take that system and replicate it, and that's why they're able to do it 23 times.
Yeah, he's one of the more unique minds of the modern, spiritual era.
Yeah,
Christian era.
and I'm just attracted to uniqueness and brilliance in people. I just think it can be completely different than mine.
Yeah. No, you
and-
genuinely are fascinated by intelligence and genius. And I think it's so unique because when you told me you were going to Birmingham, I was like, why?
Yeah,
But
that's what I felt too.
Well, I
but
didn't know
then-
you were going to go see them, and
Yeah.
then you were like, "Oh no, they're doing something at Chris's," and I was like, "Oh, cool!" Like we
And
don't
honestly,
know him.
I didn't think I'd get to meet him. I thought it was.
But it wasn't connected.
We were using their auditorium of their college.
They hosted it at their location.
Yeah, so
You
I
never know.
I had no idea,
Yeah.
whether he would be there or
Yeah.
not. And he spoke right before I spoke.
Oh,
so it was,
okay. You didn't even know he was. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
That's really cool. Well,
And so
shout
when I
out.
saw that, I got up early. I got up early to go hear him.
Did you?
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
Because it's a 3-hour time difference, so I'm getting up at 4:00 in the
Yeah.
morning to go here and
Yeah.
speak. And
That's cool.
But yeah, I'm 66, but I'm still in a high learning mode. I have a lot to learn in life,
That's so interesting.
and I want to become a better leader. Like I have not hit my ceiling. I'm not finished. I'm still growing, and Mosaic has taken on new challenges, and now we have massive uncertainty. We're losing our property on Hollywood Boulevard. We're having to redesign what the future of the church looks like for us.
Yeah.
And I am so excited because Mosaic was always intended to be the research and development arm of the church. We were always supposed to be the high risk, high invention space. And this allows us to once again move out of being Legos to become Play-Doh and, reinvent ourselves and believe that the church is so resilient that we can face any crisis, any challenge, any uncertainty, and create a future through it. So I'm pretty jazzed.
I love it. I'm excited. Okay, this was a quick episode, but I just wanted to. I'm glad that we were able to sit down and talk. Last but not least, Ghost Artifacts is releasing our white whale for the last 3 years. You're wearing it right now. That's our inaugural piece that is limited edition. It is Japanese.
And the back says Artifacts, by the way. The front says Ghost.
Is Japanese loomed French terry. It's 100% cotton. This was made on a vintage machine that only made, I believe, 1 to 2 meters a day.
It took us 6 months to get this fabric.
Took 9 months to get
9
the
months.
fabric
Yeah.
from the order.
Yeah.
So I think it took them like 7 or 8 months just to make it, and then to like have everything packaged
from
and shipped from
Japan
Japan
or-
over
yeah.
to the U.S. during COVID, that was such a labor of love in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
But we're releasing this, and I'm scared. Because it's something that's like been sitting for so long that it's like, I don't know. You never know. But one thing that I'm excited for is what it means that we're back into clothing and making beautiful garments, and being in New York with Arturo and the Storytellers team and Jessica, and being able to talk through the next pieces was very exciting.
Yes, and I love that conversation about luxury goods, because the difference between being expensive and being costly.
Yeah.
Because whenever we design something, create something, there'll be some who'll say, why is it so expensive?
Yeah.
And I just want to be super upfront. What we design and what we create is costly. It costs us a lot, because it has value. And so if you understand the value, you realize it's not expensive. it's costly. And I'm excited about it. I'm so proud of what we've put together. I'm so proud of the work we've done together on it.
Yeah.
And both from conception to, design, to pattern, to sewing, the whole process has been, it's weird for me. I was going to say a labor of love. I actually love this process, and it's so much fun.
Those are hand-cut felt varsity letters. This hoodie has been, it is the white whale. But I'm very excited to see what comes out next, and we have the next few pieces. We have like the next 8 or 9 pieces ready to go, which I'm very excited about. So it releases today or tomorrow. Or no, I guess when this comes out, it'll already be out.
Will it be out?
It'll be out. Ghostartifacts.com.
I'm a man of
Follow us
little
on
faith.
Instagram,
I don't even
TikTok, website. Don't get me started, man. I'm going to walk off this. I'm going to walk out of this podcast right now.
I believe, help my unbelief. I believe we're going to release Ghost Artifacts, but right now, it's just a ghost.
We are.
We need the artifacts.
We are. It's gonna be an exciting time. I'm very excited. Okay, so thank you guys for watching this podcast, this episode. If you are just tuning in, ghostartifacts.com. Go check out the new collection, the inaugural piece, which is this hoodie, which is very different than the rest of the collection, but I'm very excited about it. Hit subscribe on our YouTube, rate and review on Spotify and Apple, wherever you guys are listening to this podcast. We will see you guys next week. Oh, come to Mosaic Conference, mosaicconference.com. It's going to be one of the greatest lineups of 2025. We'll see you guys there, May 21st through 4th. 22nd, 3rd?
I think it's 22nd, 23rd.
It's next
24th.
weekend. It starts Thursday night, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
But we're also doing a worship night on Wednesday night. So if you're here early, come join us. Love you guys. See you guys next week.
Take care.